This
I did
conference will
one.
now be recorded.
There we go. So, John, how are you?
I'm doing just fine, thank you. After seeing everybody engraving on, I shouldn't say everybody, but people engraving on pumpkins, some of the issues that I was worried about on bowls is kind of a non-issue, I believe, because the curvature is going to
Mhm.
be the same type of a deal. So, without even using a rotary, uh, the pumpkins were turning out pretty darn nice.
Right, right. And did you see that article I made about the 4-inch head getting the extra distance out of it?
I have seen a lot of your articles, and I
Yeah.
really appreciate your
Oh, you know what?
knowledge-based issues.
We talked about that last week.
There we go. That might be better. Did I show this?
I
No,
don't.
we just talked about it.
Gotcha. So that's how it is normally. And the lens is actually in this section. Let me scroll down. The lens is actually in this section here. So this is just a spacer so that when you use 10 millimeter reference point from here to the surface, that's all that spacer's for, is to allow you, to get the right distance using 10 millimeter gap here. But you can do this to it. Now you'll have to figure out what your focal point is. Whatever this distance is, you'll want to add down here, and it's also going to take your air away because it's going to be an inch away or more from the material. So, but engraving, that may not be a big deal. Put the big nozzle on, that's the big nozzle or the wider nozzle, and crank your air on up so it'll hit it from being farther away, and that way you won't hit anything. You'll have an extra inch or so of clearance. I've got let me see. But
That
yeah, that's
actually
going to
looks
give you.
like that actually looks like it would help for the inside of a platter. Being my concern was crashing coming out of the platter. Uh,
Right. Well, again, you can control it programmatically so that it'll stop when it's done and not try to return home and all that stuff. So you can actually lower the bed before you remove the material. So with a little practice, you shouldn't run into anything.
okay.
See, the thing is with the air too, unless you're going to be cutting that way, which you probably won't, it's not going to affect engraving because in reality, the air is only really for keeping debris out of the nozzle and keeping the lens cool. So it's
Yeah,
not going to matter really.
that's true.
Now,
And
now
also keep in
if you
mind,
were trying to cut,
technically this is a cutting lens. It's made for cutting thick materials, but it will
no,
engrave.
no,
So
I know,
yeah.
but I'm just saying as
No, I was
far as
telling him. So
oh,
yeah,
I would say as far as like flame propagation and things like that, I mean, it's not going to matter because you're just engraving. I wouldn't cut like that with
yeah,
without the extension on there like it's intended.
right.
Um, but you can engrave with no problems.
Yeah, I think I put that in here. Yeah, I did. This head was designed specifically for cutting. Just as long as everybody knows that distinction that you don't want to do this if you're cutting. Jason's exactly right. You definitely, of course, when you're cutting, you want to get, you're going to focus into the material anyway. You're not concerned about the things that you're worrying about here in this particular application. So, yeah. And let's see. I don't see Dennis. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm in my COVID disguise.
I understand. I was too until yesterday, but I
Uh,
figured I better stand a little closer to the razor today.
there you
Um,
go.
so it's good to have you on here. So where are you at in the trek through Thunderland?
I'm doing fantastic as far as Thunderland is concerned. This is my second one, and so I'm basically just having fun. And like I've had it like 2 weeks now, and I've made 5 million Christmas decorations and ornaments, and now
Hmm.
I'm ready to get in and start using other portions of the equipment,
Sure.
and mainly with Jason with the rotary
Hmm.
that I want to start doing mugs and stuff through and work out that. But you know how I've been very not wanting to drill holes and have air hoses coming out of my machine.
Right.
And that has to do with being over 32 years in the Silicon Valley and seeing designs from hell and everything like that. But I already made my first hole in the machine. And what I've
Now,
done is I love Gary's gauges, but they have hoses and they're screwed on the top and that kind of thing. And I love your Mars scientific gauge, but that's in the $130 to $500 stuff. So what I found is this is a digital gauge. Let me turn it on. It's a digital gauge that's 0 to 60 psi, and it's 2.5-inch standard gauge. And this is a rubber thing to protect yourself from it. And I drilled a hole just over 1.5 inches above there for the fitting, and it's got a 1/4-inch
Nice.
1/4-inch fitting, and the biggest part was finding a male push on for it. And the other part is it turns itself off after so many seconds. And what happens is it actually has a door right on the side to change the batteries, and has 2 AAA batteries, which is a lot better than other batteries to have. So it's only 1 decimal place, but what's fantastic is I hooked it up like Gary was looking at, and you had set up right after the Y before it went out to the gantry.
Right.
And with a T on it, and basically I can set it right on, 5.0 and that kind of stuff. And so I have low and high in there, and that I like that better now that we know that we're getting something consistent every time.
Right. Exactly.
But the problem is I'm getting older and I have my readers, and I can actually read this gauge without my readers.
That's a neat thing. I've got a digital air tire pressure gauge that has that exact,
and this is
real
what
similar on it.
That's what they use in the digital air tire pressure gauge. It's 0 to 60.
Yeah.
The same company. And and so that's really nice, is I followed what was going on, and I figured out what line to put it in and got it all working first time. It took me half an hour to do.
Cool.
And
you source that locally or like Amazon or something?
I got this from Amazon, and it was $18 for this, and the male push on was under $2. So basically, I was looking for something that was a lot less expensive than a scientific gauge. I've dealt with that before, $130 to $350. And I figured, what would people buy that you didn't have to read lines in the whole display?
Right. Yeah, that's a great solution. Absolutely.
Yeah. Under $20.
People are liable to steal that idea.
I hope so. I saw you put out an article the other day about my method of connecting the UDisc connector to the camera.
Yeah.
That was my thing I did months and months and months ago.
I see. Yeah. That's wild. Yeah, because not most people use the UDiscs. That's a good way to get it out without having to.
No, my first laser had a problem with the UDisc, reading that UDisc all the time. And so because I have a dedicated computer with OneDrive on it, and I can design in the house and go out in the garage and do it, I've been using that for 4 or 5 months at least.
Sure. Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. That's great. I'm glad you're with it. So.
With people putting the hoses through the machine and stuff, they can find these on Amazon as well.
Oh.
It's a through wall double push fitting on either side, and then you can tighten the nuts down on the chassis. That way you're not running a rubber hose to just a regular metal opening. That way if people need to do any maintenance or whatever, they can take it off and not have to worry about feeding lines through and things like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
and the one thing that I try to stress, and I went back and put it in that article, is you don't have to mount that thing on the front. one guy, you know, they say on the new Nova 35s, all of the air assist stuff is right there on the left-hand side in the side bay. One guy mounted his there, you know, and just left all the plumbing internal and used what was there and didn't have to drill any holes. But, you know, and it auto drains. He probably has to put a container under it, you know, to catch the condensate so it doesn't just drip out into the laser. But that's an option. Or a lot of people typically just used to put them right in the back, right by the inlet, and just run a small thing. So you don't have to get all crazy and start doing what I did. I just wanted it up front and center up there with the air assist stuff. So that was me being a little wild.
We know how you are with trying to do technology. All your
Yeah.
cameras and your follow me face things. And all
This is my next project here. That
what is
is
that? A washing machine?
no, it's a Gravograph.
See, there you go with technology again. We can't hear you.
That might help. It's a Gravograph LS100 RF tube laser. It's got a 30-watt Synrad Firestar tube in it, just like the one in my old ULS, except that was
Yeah,
a 25.
I got someone wanting me to put a rotary in one of those right now.
Yeah. So it works. X, Y, and Z work. I got the tube to excite when I took the manual shutter out. So I may have to get a recharge on it, but these things I think sell for 20 or 30 grand just for a little 8x12 desktop unit. And they are full 5G, full servo. I mean, honestly, it's a bad little desktop laser. It'd be perfect for taking to swap meets and places like that. It's rugged. It's got a cast frame. And everything in it is just rock solid, a lot like the Thunder. All the fixtures are heavy duty, but it's air cooled, so you don't have to deal with water. That would be a perfect one to take to flea markets and stuff and put it mobile. So just something I'm tinkering with. It was a barn find. I basically got it for nothing. So I just, you know, if it's got motors in it, I'm going to have to take it home with me if I can. So we've got some, we've had Gleno. Oh, Gleno just popped off of there. Steve, I've spoken with you, Steve. He's going to listen in for a little bit. John's here. Eric, I think we've spoken to before, but Gina looks like she may be a newcomer. Hey, Gina, how are you?
Good.
Good. So are you a Thunder Laser owner, or are you expecting?
I'm looking at the
Okay.
35 and 51.
Okay. All right. Well, can we answer any questions for you? Do you have anything you want us to elaborate on?
I was just I've been going and looking at all the different videos, so I'm leaning towards the 51. I mean, I don't know if that's like something, if you're going to go, you go with the bigger one. If you think you're going to really use it a lot and want to do like bigger things, go with the bigger one first, or do you upgrade later?
Well, everybody usually says that didn't upgrade when they were thinking about it. They usually wish they'd have gone as big as they could have gone. I like the 51 in the fact, and I've got a 35. I like the 51 in the fact you can put a full 4x8 sheet of material through it, through the pass-through. So
Right.
that's a real attractive thing if you do that kind of stuff. That'll help your workflow quite a bit and your labor. So.
Now, the 51, it will fit through a door?
Yeah, all of them will.
Okay.
The Nova 24, of course, is a desktop in the Mini 60, but the 35 through the 63 are freestanding, and you can split them apart, and you can even get a Nova 63 through a standard doorway. I don't know if I'd want to try it, but you can.
Okay. And how far out, like if you're ordering right now, are they before you get it in? Wow.
I'm thinking a couple of months now with the holidays
Okay.
and COVID and the logistics industry. Basically, I don't know what to call it. It's been a little hectic here lately. So our lead times have gone up a little bit due to all of that stuff. We still have machines constantly coming in. One of the big things is, you know, we've been pre-order on these things for over a year, and the demand just keeps growing, and the waiting list just keeps getting longer and longer. So a lot of that's dictated by the demand. So you'd probably want to
Okay.
check with sales though to make sure. You can email sales@thunderlaserusa.com, and the sales team will be glad to answer that. I can get in there and look, but I don't get in there regularly enough, so they'd be the go-to on that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. Do you have any other questions, or you're welcome just to hang out, and if something comes up, just feel free to interrupt us.
Okay, yeah, I figured I'd jump on and listen and see what I could learn.
Sure. All right, absolutely. We're glad you're here.
Can I say something, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Gina, I don't work for Thunder Laser, but this is Dennis up here. And I'm going to tell you is I had a 20 by 28 red and black, one of those Chinese things. And I'm telling you, after seeing Chris's review of the 51, I went with the 51. And it's just fantastic. I mean, if you want to go through stuff, this is great. I did a bunch of I've only had it 2 weeks, and I went through a zillion Christmas ornaments and snowflakes and stuff on this. And basically, using the 3x5 table on the 51, I got a nesting software from Europe, and I nested all my files onto the ply I was using, and it was just knocking out ornaments like left and right. So it's not too there's nothing known as too big.
Okay, great. That's what we were just, my husband and I have been throwing it back and forth, and we've just kind of been, which one do we go with? Which one do we go with? And I mean, I first seen that Glowforge, and then I was like, no, I'll stay away from that one. I started seeing some bad reviews on a couple things, but I've seen where some people have had good luck with it, but it seems like a lot of people are upgrading to the Thunder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had a lot of Glowforge converts.
Yeah.
And it's really propelled us. I mean, we're starting to get a lot of people. So I got to stay on top of my game to make sure we keep all this service stuff going.
Right. And I've seen that. I've seen a lot of people. I had a Glowforge. I switched. I upgraded to the Thunder, and I'm like, well, there I go. That answered my question there.
Yeah. Well, we're pretty proud of our stuff. I would be a proponent of Thunder Laser even if I didn't work for them. That's how much I appreciate the work and innovation that they put into these machines. So it's really a good thing.
Curious on where do you hide the complaints or the questions on failures of the machine? Because all the questions I see going out there are basically user error or user familiarity with it. I don't see any issues with actual failures of bits and pieces, which is, where are you hiding that stuff?
Yeah, we don't hide it. They don't fail. They just break. So no, we don't hide it. If somebody puts that stuff out there, now we'll encourage them to get into the service, submit a ticket, and so we can handle it the right way from there. But we don't pull anything down. If somebody talks bad about us, we'll let it stay. So that's one thing we're proud of, is we don't have to police it.
So just like I said, I'm just kind of impressed that I haven't seen component failures. I see a lot of questions out there that are people not being familiar with how it operates. Right. And I'm going to be in that boat here. Well, unfortunately, it won't be shortly because of lead time, but
not short enough.
Yeah, but sometime in January, early February, I'll be posting, no doubt, a lot of stuff. Now, okay, the Lightburn. If my wife Joanne, builds things in Adobe Illustrator, and building the layers such in Illustrator, how does that fit in with the Lightburn? Can that go over directly, or does she have to separate the layers again?
Well, the layers it'll try to honor those layers if the color, as long as their colors are the same. That's how Lightburn works. It does layers by the color palette. So here's the thing: if you're designing for print and you're using masking a lot to hide a bunch of background stuff that you're not going to show, you create a vector array and then you put another something on top of it and it masks everything else. That can come through, and that depends on the artwork. And I just saw a great article that Chris Locasio put out about dealing with that, turning something that's print ready, laser ready, if you do run into that thing. But now Lightburn does accept AI files natively. So you can just drag and drop right into Lightburn. You can design in pretty much any software you want, but you can design in AI, and then when you're ready, just drag it into Lightburn or open it in Lightburn and you're ready to go.
Okay, well, we haven't played with the Lightburn yet. We do have our license now, but we haven't played with it. So anyway.
Yeah. And you can go ahead and load that up. I would run the free trial, let that 30 days run out before you put your key in. That'll give you 30 extra days. And I've got an article about how to build a mock device. You can go ahead and set it up so it's the same workspace as yours, and everything will be right. You'll just have to choose the communication method when your machine actually comes in. So you can go ahead and start designing and playing in the workspace and seeing about it.
Yeah, I saw that on your knowledge base. In your knowledge base, so far from, I see people ask questions and you put them out there on the knowledge base. So I've gone and read those, and so far I'm impressed with it anyway. And I don't let that go to your head. Don't let your cap blow off there. But
I don't know how to keep things simple sometimes. That's what people normally say about me, is I got to keep it simple. Sometimes I get a little analytical when I jump down these rabbit holes, but I kind of like doing that. Look at John. He's like, yeah, you got that right. Did you drink your champagne as a toast to Ron?
I did. I celebrated, put a hat on and everything, and he's not here.
He's probably out there working on that. He probably forgot to do something, and his lasers on, coming looming. So he's out there doing some final touch-ups. So we'll see.
Now, I know exactly what he's doing. He's creating a YouTube video on the process it took him to decide to buy the laser, and he's making a mini series out of it, a 10-part YouTube. I'll have to tell him that. I'll have to get on his channel and tell him that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Gleno, how are you, man? I see you on here.
Hey, doing good.
Awesome. So how things been with you?
Well, let's see. I had a head crash, a window crash, and otherwise, I've actually been able to do a wood block on a printing press, and it was great. So we're moving ahead, but I'm learning every day.
Right. Well, still me too. Yeah. So I crashed my head not too long ago. So.
Yeah, they have this function in Lightburn that says, I don't have it in front of me, but it's like move the distance. And I thought, oh, maybe that's the distance of the material. And I put that in, and all of a sudden my the bed started, going up. And I did the whack-a-mole thing, and I was able to stop it. But yeah, I kind of tore up the left side of it. But yeah, that's a battle scar.
Yeah, the Z-axis stuff. There's full Z-axis control in Lightburn. You can turn it on where it'll do steps per pass and all this stuff. But it scares me a little bit. Yeah. So, but yeah, if you get a hold of that Z-axis in Lightburn, even in the move panel, you can move it even with Z-axis control off, and that can definitely be an issue. It looks like Jason has a war wound too.
That's what happens when you use a 4-inch lens and try to autofocus at a 2-inch distance.
Yeah.
I don't know if you see that.
Yeah, that's what I had. I had the 4-inch lens, and that's exactly kind of what the path it took.
It looks a lot worse, but the camera don't really pick it up. But I learned that lesson, and I've been doing this for a long time, and everybody makes mistakes.
Oh yeah. But luckily, I'm trying to, where did it go? I'm trying to document that stuff as it goes too. And I think I even put that in here somewhere. Now, there's an article somewhere. I think I'm trying to document this stuff as we go along.
The biggest thing is if you when you start up your machine, you autofocus at 2 inches. And then after you autofocus at 2 inches, you obviously have your number there. The Z height is already set instead of being 3000, which is just an infinite number in the system. Then you swap out your lenses, and then you add the distance to whatever that number is in Lightburn, and then send it back to the machine to correct it. But I was in a hurry and didn't do that.
Yeah, right. I usually just
what
manually
for a distance from a 4-inch 4-inch head to the material.
Sorry?
From the nozzle to the material, it's 10 millimeters if you're focusing to the surface.
Yeah, I usually focus at about 8 with a 6-inch, or with the 4-inch. I focus about 8 from the material, but that's just me.
Yeah, what difference would that create?
You'd
What's
be
that?
focusing. You'd be focusing into the material instead of on the surface. When you autofocus or doing it, of course, we're talking about a 4-inch lens, so we don't even use autofocus for that. But if you focus normally the way the stock 4-inch head is, if you're 10 millimeters between the surface of the material and the nozzle, which is what we prescribe, that's the focal point to the surface. So for instance, if you wanted to cut through 1/4 inch, which you'd usually be something thicker, but just for an instance, 1/4 inch is 6 millimeters. If you want to go halfway, if you want to focus halfway into that material, you drop the head 3 more inches so that you're 3 inches closer. And now you're focused into the material by 3 inches. And that's where the finest, best, hottest part of the beam is, instead of at the surface. So,
That's one thing we need to address with Thunder. Because as far as I can tell, you can't set it up like you would with like a touch probe or something like that with the 4-inch lens and actually use autofocus.
right. No. Yeah, it's not ever made to use autofocus for any of the aftermarket lenses. That's only for the stock 2-inch lens.
Yeah. But it's one of those little things that's not the best design in my opinion, but it could definitely be fixed, I guess, or
Yeah.
addressed.
Well, then you run into the problem of then if you make it standard like the 2-inch, then you only have 6 millimeters of gap there. If we make it all uniform, but going for materials that are over 10 millimeters, so you need to focus into the material 9 millimeters sometimes, and you can't do that or they'll touch. So the reason to keep a different length is so that you'll have more range to focus in if you need to. Theoretically, on that 4-inch lens, you can focus 9 millimeters into a piece of material. Lens, the deepest you could focus is about 5.
But
It almost doubles with the lens.
You can bypass autofocus anyways to keep it from stopping the head.
Jason, I thought you had said that you didn't use the honeycomb, that you just used the blades. Or was that just a selling point for your clips?
I'm sorry?
You said at one time that you didn't use the honeycomb, that you just used the blades. And then on one of your videos, you show using those clips that you built for the blades.
Yeah, I don't typically use the honeycomb, i.e. the reason that probably happened. I don't use it very often, but I have used it a handful of times. But the issue with like what I ran into is I wasn't even thinking about it. Because I'm used to have a couple of other machines and they have the touch type sensors for autofocus. So it just was a habit of doing it a certain way, and I forgot that with that particular sensor, it doesn't account for for the nozzle length. So, but on the flip side of that, if you're doing the 4-inch nozzle with the conversion to the short, or the 4-inch lens with the shorter nozzle with the standard nozzle, the autofocus should work fine and be able to actually keep you away from the material the appropriate amount without having to do anything, because it's already going to have that offset distance.
So looks like Grant joined us for a minute. He may just be listening in. Gina, if you're listening, Grant, I think Gina asked earlier what the lead time was. I'll let you handle that one.
Lead time on which one?
No 51.
I'm getting a little bit of feedback, but right now the lead time on the Nova 51
100 or 80. I'm not sure. So.
The lead time right now on the Nova 51
Just
is
I thought it was off.
Late January to mid-February.
Brian, your audio video is like way messed up.
Gotcha.
Hey Grant.
What do you mean?
What's up?
Hey, what's the lead time on the Rotobosses?
I don't know. I think Jason knows about that one, right, Jason?
I'll have to ask my boss, but
I would guess 2 to 3 weeks.
that's pretty good. Hey, Brian,
Yeah.
can you check your camera or whatever? Because ever since the last time you touched your camera, you got a lot of lag and you're really fuzzy and blurry and dropping in and out.
Yeah, let me try to turn something off. Is that any better? Let me do a test. It looks good on my end. There may be some latency on I'm on Wi-Fi. I'm not plugged directly in.
Oh,
I don't know what it looks like on that end.
that looks a
Well,
lot better now.
to me.
That actually looks and sounds better now.
Well, I don't know about the looking better part, but
Well, that's subjective, but
Put the glasses on, you'll see better.
who, me?
Brian, put your glasses on, you'll see better.
Oh yeah, I don't know where they are right now. I'll have to find out. I put them away for a little bit. So, well, while we're waiting to see if anybody else, hey, I see Gleno got his microphone unmuted. You got something, man?
Oh yeah, I appreciate the new video on doing the ThunderCam. I had to redo that.
We're gonna redo it again. There's some more things that I want to get better, and I'd had the wrong microphone selected, so it sounds like I'm in a 55-gallon drum. So we're gonna redo it again. But yeah, we're trying to come up with one that'll more accurately convey what's going on, and I think we're getting pretty close on that second take. So
when I did the card measurement, with the dots on it,
right,
it was telling me where to place the cards, but it was backwards. It was on the other side, or top was bottom and bottom was top.
Yeah, I mounted, and I'm sure a lot of people do it, but I mounted my camera backwards the first time, so I had to undo the thumb screws and flip it around. Now, Lightburn will still configure correctly that way. It doesn't care, but your preview would be upside down, so that's kind of wacky. But
Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing some videos here before too long because I have some, not really changes, but kind of additions to the rotaries coming up. I wanted to highlight. Do you have any? You want to send me some information or any questions you want me to address in the videos, or?
Yeah, I'll put something together. If you're going to put like an overview, kind of an overview thing together.
Yeah, because I haven't done any real videos since, I don't know, 8 months ago.
Right.
And some things have changed since then and whatnot. So I'm gonna try to do some updated videos on how to use it and the features and functions and all that stuff. So
That'll be cool. I can put it in the unified manual. I can link them in there too, and I'll update whatever's in there that you think might need to be changed too. Because I was basically just pulled off your stuff,
yeah.
on that document.
Well, like the big thing is
definitely work on that.
The new bearings and stuff like that. The slave wheels are actually going to go from two O-rings to three O-rings, and you're going to have a spacer cap for the heel plate for offset, things like that. So there's a couple of things that are going to be coming out.
Okay.
And then to address anything that hasn't been addressed previously.
Sure. Yeah, I'll get with you and we can kind of hammer some of that out. I don't think I have too much stuff. You cover everything pretty good. So, but yeah, we can look over that for sure.
Okay.
It's a good idea. Trying to think if there's any other new things. Really, that camera thing was the big thing that I was happy about today, is simplifying all of that. So that'll help a lot.
Makes me happy.
Yeah, doesn't it? You won't have to worry about it anymore. That'll help. I think it'll help on the other end too. Getting them, only having two part numbers, it's easy to keep up with.
Right. Yep.
I've got another question on the camera.
Sure.
I do the whole measurement thing, and then you know, it's finished. Now, if I change the Z table, does it change with it, or is it only at that Z
Well, yeah.
point?
So ultimately, whenever you do that, not the lens calibration, but the actual alignment, where you project that test target and capture the crosshairs and all of that, that material that you do that test on needs to be autofocused. And that's one thing I do like about our autofocus, is that the bed moves, and the sensor is related to the top of the material, and the bed part stationary. So if you use autofocus every time, your camera is going to stay in alignment. Now, I see what you're saying, and you're right. If you calibrated your camera with whatever that substrate was at a certain distance, and that distance changes, i.e. if you manually focus the bed instead of using autofocus, then it can throw your camera out of alignment, because the focal point needs to match what the focal point of the laser actually is, if that makes sense. So the autofocus makes it easy to use the camera, because as long as you autofocus, then the calibrations should remain intact. The alignment, rather. The calibration is for the lens.
It moves as the distance changes. And then the last time I used the autofocus, and then I think we're good now.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that definitely can make a difference. And typically it'll change your scale. It'll just make things bigger or smaller, mostly, depending on, how central your view is. But typically that'll handle it. Now, you can also save different, if there's, for instance, if you manually focus something a lot and it has to be a certain way, you can do another camera calibration for that job and keep it in, and you can export these camera calibrations, and you can have one for your normal jobs and one for that special one. You see what I mean? If you can determine that, so that you don't have to recalibrate every time you change your focal point, if you decide.
I was looking for that, I couldn't find it. If you could save that profile or save that calibration. So I don't know if there's something online that shows me what.
Well, yeah, in the help section, there's the full documentation and the resources, and there's some new documents also. They got a new docs link, and I'll put that let me put that in the chat here so you can have it. There's that. But the new documentation goes over all of that stuff pretty well. I don't think I have it shared on the screen, but I put the link in the chat. And then if we need to remote in and give you some help, we can do that too. So. Has anybody else got anything? Trying to fill in 20 more minutes. Grant, hey, you're playing with images. Are you doing some photos now, you said?
Well, I'm more just playing around. I want to have samples on hand, more like finished samples. So when people come and demo, like everybody knows I haven't been doing this very long, so I'm not a master at the machine yet. So people come in and of course they expect me to do things 100% correct and get it right the first time. And I'm just not there yet. So I want to have materials on hand where I've got it looking really nice, like on cups, bamboo, Baltic birch, like all sorts of different things. So that's what I'm doing right now. And so I'm playing around. I'm about to order a bunch of materials from JDS, so that's TBD. But we'll see.
Cool.
It's fun, but it's hard when you don't get a lot of time in there.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a bunch of rabbit holes to jump down for speed and power and line interval and air and all that good stuff. So it's fun.
Yep.
Cool, cool.
And that new laser was my best friend, and then we sold it. So now I'm using one of the older ones.
The other ones are they Mars? Are any of those the Mars ones?
One of them is a Mars, and then we have a 35-100 that's from 2016, and then a 3580 that's from 2019.
Okay, you got a little mix of everything there.
Yep. Well, we should be getting another new one in January, I think.
And then you'll just sell it Get
We
another-
better not. We better not.
That was an emergency, huh?
Right. This is kind of a side thing, but I've been talking to Clay a little bit. I know we're building a warehouse in the back. I don't know if you know that. And so I'm going to finally get an office instead of a cubicle. And I'm trying to talk him into getting me a machine for my office so I can play around, shoot videos, and do a bunch of different stuff. So we'll see.
Nova 63, you could take a nap in it.
That's what I want to do. I could hide in there, drop the bed down. I'll be nice.
Oh, awesome. Well, I don't have much more. I know it's a little earlier. If anybody else has any questions or observations or critiques or anything, let us know.
Can I ask
Be
a
patient.
non-thunder question, Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely.
'Cause I want to rely on your expertise, everyone.
Oh boy.
Someone asked me if they brought me materials and files and I would burn it on the laser, how much per hour would I charge them for that service?
Run away.
Don't do it.
No,
No,
you can do it.
don't do it.
Waiver. You know, I'd have something that if you mess up their materials, you can't help it. That stuff happens. If it's a keepsake, an heirloom, something sentimental, an antique piece, anything like that with provenance or any kind of history, stuff, I would not do it. But if it's somebody bringing their, coasters or their clip, cutting boards or whatever over, then that would be all right. I'm not sure what to charge because I don't ever make anything.
I'd do anything and everything. I would never give anybody an hour. I mean, I do. I mean, I've done I've done everything. But it's all your comfort level, what you're comfortable doing. Also, when you do that stuff, you want to make sure that the customer is very well aware that things can go wrong and that you're not to be held liable. You'll do your best. But the thing is, I mean, you can't avoid it. I mean, you're doing something that's unfamiliar. But just letting them know that, making sure that you're comfortable doing it, is the biggest thing. But I would never give anybody a by the hour job because typically in the laser community, you charge about $1 a minute of time. So if something takes you 8 hours, do you really think you're going to be able to charge that kind of money for for something? So you got to kind of play it. Like I just did a picture. I think I posted on the page. I don't know. I did a 15 by 18 picture for $450. It took almost 8 hours to do because of going slow and everything like that with it. But I mean, so you gotta. It almost boils down to it's worth whatever someone will pay for it.
Know that, yeah.
But you want to be kind of reasonable about it. Like what would I expect to pay for something like this, knowing, cost of the machine, the runtime, my time, design time, things like that. So there's a lot that plays into it. So I would never lock myself into an hourly fee or charge or anything like that.
Yeah.
My minimum charge is My minimum charge to start up either my fiber or my CO2 is $25. Period. So if they don't have it, or if they just bring me like a pen or something and say, "Hey, I want to engrave it," it's $25. I mean, they either pay it or they don't. They'll find somebody else, which nobody else does a lot of what I do around here. So
also keep track and be aware of the design time. Everything everybody ever gives you is probably never going to be laser ready. You're going to have to do some stuff to it. And even if you say, "Oh, that job will only take 2 minutes, I'll give you $5," you spend 2 hours getting the artwork right to make it come out, and then you go, "Oops."
Right.
So
I always, if someone gives me a design that's like a DXF, I always have them send it to me. If I open it up and it's basically, for lack of a better way to put it, ready to go, I might charge like $5 or something for like a setup fee. But if I have to do any work whatsoever, like I hate AI. AI to me is garbage. Sorry, John. but AI to me is garbage because a lot of people have stuff like Brian was saying, print ready or graphics kind of files, and there are multiple layers and stuff like that. The laser will pick up that every single time and it'll ruin it. So you have to go in and flatten the images and group them and weld them and do all this other stuff to flatten that image to where it only shows you what you actually want to see. So usually, if I have to do any work to it, I charge $25 flat to do any kind of design work, and then it could go up from there depending on how intricate or how intense the artwork is itself. But that's just me and where I'm at. You may not be able to charge that where you're at. I don't know, but that's kind of where I'm at down here. But
Yeah.
I'd love to stay and chat more about
Basically,
that.
I got the impression that she must cut crafty kind of stuff, and she wants me to cut it on MDF, and she claims to have the SVG files, and it's just a matter of her bringing me the MDF, stick it in the laser, and run the file. I know it's probably not that simple, but then she kind of complicated it for me because I'm still working on tumblers. So she wants to bring me tumblers for me to do, and although I have a great rotary, I'm not that proficient in doing tumblers yet.
Were you asking a
If
question? Or?
it's one design, you don't have to be proficient. You get it to run once, and you can just keep popping in a new cup and hitting the button again. But is she doing like die sub blanks or something like that? Is she?
I gotta run, guys. Take care.
All right, man.
All right.
If it's something like that,
I think she's a crafter of some.
Okay, well, that file may absolutely be ready, and you may not have to do anything to it. But I think more importantly, if you set expectations at the front end, you know, if you're bringing your own materials, there's a chance something can happen. I might not be able to replace those, you know, exactly.
Right.
If the design work is extra, that's going to be a little thing. I think if you set the expectations at the beginning, you can pretty much do as little or as much as you want to do, you know. So.
Well, what I was hoping to do is to get a figure for the laser time, and then I can adjust it based on what it is she brings me or what it is that she wants done, and does it need design. I mean, I'm not going to sit at the computer for an hour and not charge her.
Right.
You know, so I just want to try. I'm trying to get an idea what it's worth to run this laser, because obviously there are consumables on a laser.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, things have to be replaced after a while. So I just want to get a fair number.
Yeah.
And to run the laser. So if she wants to run the laser for 5 hours, what can I charge her? And that's what I'm really trying to find out.
Right. And the time, you know, you can do the time estimate, get the file from her, do the time preview, make sure that you've done that procedure in there where you calibrate it to our machines, because ours are faster than the majority of the machines that Lightburn runs on. So the time is off until you do that. I've got an article about it. Once you can get a ballpark figure, actually probably pretty close estimate of the actual time it'll be to run the job, then you could even calculate, okay, if my tube lasts 10 years and it costs $500, you know, you can break that down into time. You can break down even your electricity usage. You can charge 150 or 1500 kilowatt hours per, you know, per job or whatever. You can, there's a guy a guy that does a bunch of cups, Justin, in Minnesota. I think is he in Minnesota? Anyway, a buddy of mine, and he has that workflow stuff down to a science. He counts how many steps it takes to go back and forth between his computer and the machine to do that one particular job. I mean, he gets that deep into it, you know, which I don't think you'd want to dig that deep. You'd spend more time and money trying to figure it out than you'd actually make or what you'd save from digging that deep. You know, he just likes to look at the workflow and the tool chain that way. But yeah, I would definitely, I wouldn't undercut it by any means. Typically when I charge somebody something, I feel almost a little uncomfortable about it. You know, I feel like that might be a little much, but it's really not, because who else is going to do that?
Right.
You know?
So I'm going to see what she needs cut, you know, what she wants done. And then, you know, I'll try to come up with some sort of number. I don't want to burn the machine out either. And because I have my own things to cut and do, you know, I figured I could do it during the downtime when the laser's sitting doing nothing.
Yeah.
But I still have to be here to babysit it. So, you know, my time is worth something. It's not in the machine time. I can't put stuff in the machine and walk away.
Right.
So really, it's two things you're concerned about. It's the machine time and your time.
Right. Exactly.
So,
And you have to consider, is this a hobby or are you doing it as a business?
Well, I think when I first got interested, it was a hobby. Well, not a hobby, it was a retirement diversion. And of course, my daughters kind of pushed me to say, well, let's do this, let's do that. So now at this point, it's a part-time business that I'm trying to make money with. And that really wasn't my intention when I started. My intention was not to start a laser business, was to have something to do with my retirement.
Yeah.
Something to keep me busy.
Yeah,
If
pricing
now
things,
whatever number you come up with, if you want to stay semi-retired and still make it fun, whatever number you come up with, triple it. And that way it'll make it worth your time, and it'll weed out any of those ones that aren't lucrative. And that way you can still make the best use of your time.
Right. That's what I'm going to do. I mean, they got me, my toys, they got me cutting these Santa tray things. I'm like, that's all the machine is doing. Is every day I'm cutting more and more of these things with names on them. And that really wasn't my intention when I started. I mean, they're a great seller. I bet you they're selling 10 of them a day.
Nice.
You know, it's crazy, but
you worked yourself back into a job.
Yeah, right. That's not what I wanted. I don't mind. I like money. I like money as much as the next guy because I live in a very expensive state. I live in New York, and nothing's cheap in New York. And everything, even the air we breathe, is expensive in New York. So it's nice to make some extra money.
Sure.
And we'll see where it goes. I mean, I bought a 24. I didn't buy a 63 or a 51. I bought a desktop, laser to keep myself occupied. So we'll see. I'm going to see the files and take it from there.
I didn't catch Jason before he dropped off, but he does not like AI. So what does he use?
Probably Lightburn.
Just strictly, he does all of his design in Lightburn.
I do all of my stuff in Lightburn. I've got AI. Okay. I've got Fusion 360. I've got AutoCAD. I've got everything. I don't have Vectric Expire, but I want to get that, but mostly for doing 3D relief maps out of STLs. But yeah.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Brian,
Oops, I cut him off right when he was talking. I'm sorry, Grant.
One last question.
Yeah.
In Lightburn, how do you bring in you make something in Lightburn, you save the file, it's a Lightburn file. Now you create something else and you save it's a Lightburn file and you say, wow, that would look nice together on the same project. How do you bring those two things together at the same time in Lightburn?
Open the one that you want the settings to adhere to. If you already have a job open and you already have your layers set up with your colors and your speeds and powers and all that stuff,
right.
If you open a new file, it's going to delete all, of course you're going to have a new instance, and you're going to pull it over. But if you're already working on something and you want to bring something into Lightburn, but just bring the artwork and that's all, you can import and it'll bring it right into and that way you can.
Okay. I got it. All right. I don't read documentation that good. I'm sure it's written down someplace.
Yeah.
But I figured I'd ask you if you'd know the answer.
Yeah, you can import a Lightburn file and it'll just bring in the artwork.
Okay, good. That's what I want.
Sorry, I had a message here. But that's about all I've got.
Might have a question for Grant. Are you still on?
Yeah, what's up?
I'll try not to cut him off this time.
This is John and Joanne. Just curious, we haven't actually received an actual, what we consider a receipt for our payment. There is something when we got the license for Lightburn. It's sort of a receipt, but there's looks like a true receipt for our payment. Am I just looking at things wrong, or should we be expecting something?
Yeah, we don't have any way to actually have a receipt. I can send you over your quote that shows paid, but I just don't have any sort of receipt to send.
Okay, I don't know.
But we have it paid in full.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it is paid in full. Okay, yeah, if you just show the quote that shows it's paid in full or whatever, that'd be great.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Appreciate it. Anyway, thanks.
All right. Well, I guess I'm going to get off of here. It's got about 3 minutes left, but we probably can't have too much of a conversation in 3 minutes. I guess we could. got some samples to catch up on. I'm going to do some borosilicate glass, even though they say it won't have a real high contrast. I'm going to play with that today, and some regular soft glass for a client. So I'm going to make a video of that, and I'll put it up on all the sample request section. So other than
I'm gonna
that,
need your help, Brian.
oh, that's right. You're going to get with me after this.
Yes.
Give me about 10 minutes so I can go to the little boys' room, grab another drink real quick, and then I'll be ready for you.
Same. Okay. Sounds good.
Awesome. All right. Well, I guess I'm going to knock this one out, and we'll call it good. John, Dennis, John, everyone, glad you could make it, and hope we can see you next time. All
Thanks a lot, Brian, everybody.
right. Have a good day.